Hey, what's up, guys? So, good news, really good news, actually. Um, I guess it was in January. I had ordered two more pedal kayaks from Old Town. The pandemic, all that hit, obviously last year. And with that, there was a ton of back orders on pretty much anything outdoor related. So, my pedal drive wasn't going to come in until June, I think, 16th. It just came in. It came in like 3 days ago. However, working on other videos, just stuff around the house. I haven't been able to unbox it. So I'm going to unbox this, make sure everything's there, and show you a few of the things that I'm going to be rigging up on it. Alright guys, let's get to it. Alright, here she is. Gotta get her set up. Everything looks good. Just gotta get the drive set up and the steering and the seat. So I got these from Navari Fishing. What I'm going to use them for is to mount my Gatlin rod holders. This is where they're going to sit on. They have little grooves on the bottom for the T-bolts, and I mount those rod holders using T-bolts and wing nuts. So I'm going to go ahead and put those on. So it's easy. Pop these covers off with the flathead. It's got 4 bolts. Save those bolts. Make sure these are not upside down, obviously. You want this flat part to be facing up and the little groove down. Alright, had to get a Phillips because my drill doesn't reach in there far enough. And don't tighten them down so much that you're going to strip them out. Just, they only need to be, snug them down and then maybe another quarter turn. And just to FYI, Navari makes these same handles for the front if you want one. Up next we'll do the drive, I guess. So guys, I'll let you in on a little secret. This is the first Old Town pedal drive I've ever owned. So what I'm doing is basically just learning on my own. These things are pretty simple to set up, I imagine, because I'm a guy and don't read instructions. That these little arrows probably line up in here to center this. And then I need to take that off. You probably just tighten these things down, I'm guessing. I don't know. I could be wrong. Okay. So I didn't even notice that little clamp right here holds the drive in place. Hopefully you can see it on the video. Like I said, I've never owned an Old Town pedal drive, so this is all new to me. I've had native before making the switch over to my autopilot, and I haven't had a pedal drive since. So it looks like you just pull this thing out. So I got it. So Navari, the same guy I got these handles from, sells these spacers that go on the sides of this right here. Now I didn't know why, because I've never had one of these. Like I said, So these clamps don't actually tighten up to lock because this thing needs to pivot like that. So it needs to rotate. So it makes sense why they did that. But then I guess people are having issues with the drive maybe sliding and they don't like it. It looks like it locks down here though. And it should stay in place. I'm not too worried about it. So the drive's set up. Let me put the handle and the steering on. So here's the deal, guys. I'll be honest on this one. Not a big fan of this. If you don't know what it is, it goes on back of the paddle holder. And then once you screw it in and have a paddle here, it locks up here. And it locks your paddle in place from falling off. Well, great idea, but this has little flex to it. So this thing breaks if you pull too hard on it on accident too many times. Great concept, but I think the material needs to be different, like maybe more bungee cord material. I didn't think it was going to be that big of an issue, so I never replaced it on my autopilot. And then I didn't put in the video at Eufaula, but I lost a paddle at Eufaula because I didn't have this bungee holding it in place. So, all right, I'm gonna show you guys. I know some of y'all been asking about these rod holders. So they're pretty easy to install. Get your T-bolt, and I don't have a wing nut with me. I need to go buy some more. So I'm just gonna kind of show you the basics. The setup the guy sends you comes with, I think it comes with a T-bolt already, and it comes with like a knob and a lock washer or something, and a couple big flat washers to kind of help distribute the weight on whatever surface you're going to mount these rod holders to, because it's a decent amount of weight. It's all aluminum and plastic. It's heavy duty enough for fishing, that's for sure. But anyways, the T-bolt goes through here, and this thing just sits, well, let me hold the T-bolt, just sits on there, and then you tighten the wing nut down, and this whole thing can pivot back and forth, and it's out of your way. So the next thing I have that I'm going to put on the autopilot, or the pedal kayak, the Sportsman 120, is this Yak power system. I actually have it on the autopilot already. I ordered another one. It's pretty cool. So what it is, if you've never seen it, one, it makes wiring super easy. It has a distribution box basically. So it's a relay system. This side hooks up to your battery, and all these connections hook up to whatever accessory that you have. And everything can plug and unplug, so it makes it easy to remove everything. This stays in the kayak. You mount it wherever you can find room. Honestly, what I did for mine on the autopilot was I put a bunch of adhesive silicone on the back of this thing and let it sit for a couple days so it would stick in place. But it can still peel up with a little bit of effort. So if you want to take it out and move it to a new kayak, or you're selling yours and don't want to sell it with it, you can do that. You can also get this system that comes with this remote. So like, you don't have to go in, there's no physical switches to turn on in this power box. So you can mount it out of the way, obviously, inside the kayak, and then use this to turn it on remotely. You can either mount this directly on the kayak somewhere to the hole. Or what I did with my autopilot was I put this on the track. This goes in here, and then you don't have to drill any holes in the kayak for this thing. You just turn it on, hit which ones you want to activate, which one of these numbers that correlates with the number on the remote, and you're good to go. I also got this, which will come in handy. So what I'm gonna do, you gotta buy the other connectors to power your stuff too. So it's a little more to it than this, but it's worth it. So what you do with this thing is, I'll show you on here, even though that's not really how it works. This connects into a power wire that you've ran somewhere in the kayak, and then you have a USB outlet right there. So what this one's used for is powering a spotlight if you need it. What I use mine for mostly is to power my GoPro camera that's in the back of the kayak. Not 100% sure where I'm going to wire this up yet. I'm going to play around with it and look at it some. I'll show you guys once I'm done with it. The other thing I need to do is mount another RAM track. That's the one thing I wish this was on here, was tracks back here. But I need a track to mount my GoPro camera back here. That pretty much might be all I need. I'm going to basically use my fish finder back and forth in these kayaks. Alright, so I knew this was coming in, the new kayak, so I got some parts ordered to be here to rig up everything. I got some spare parts, the paddle strap like I told you, ordered some extra scupper plugs, but the main thing I got was the wiring kit that is used on the autopilot. It's really good. Like, it's a really good system. I didn't want to have to buy a big, heavy, a big clunky scan strap mount that I used to use on all my kayaks. This thing is super easy to use. One hole, everything works with the Humminbird fish finder. I can mount one on either side and then seal them back up if I'm not going to use them. Alright guys, so after that last clip, I had gone to the lake and did a bunch of stuff on the lake to show y'all the rigging that I'd done on this kayak, and for some reason it didn't upload, and I deleted the files, and so I lost it all. So I have to do this video, the rest of it, in my messy garage, and I guess it's alright because I actually did a seat modification after I got off the water because the seat was kind of bothering my back. On this pedal 110, the seat angle was so steep that it put a lot of pressure on my lower back, and I have back issues, so at the end of the day and for a few hours once I got off the water, my back was killing me. The seat's exactly the same as the Sportsman, the Autopilot, so I know it's not actually the seat that's an issue. I believe it's just the angle of the seat. So as you see, hopefully this shows up, on the Autopilot it sits up about 2 inches in the back, so the angle of that seat's not quite as steep. On the pedal, it was sitting down and it was definitely at a harder angle. So what I did was I went to Amazon, bought this, I think it's called HDPE plastic. What I did was cut some chunks out of it, a couple blocks, and kind of grooved it to the shape of the seat, that round half moon. Drilled some holes in it, drilled some holes in the seat bottom, and then zip tied it in there. So now it has that about a 2-inch rise on that as well. So hopefully it's reducing the angle of this seat, and hopefully it puts less pressure on my lower back and doesn't bother me. But I did that after the fact anyway, so I guess it's kind of working out. I can see how it feels next time I'm on the water. The battery, I guess I didn't go over it earlier, or the video didn't show up. So the battery, basically, I bought this little box from Home Depot. It's like a Husky box or something. And then I screwed the Yak Power switching system to it. Put some heavy-duty Velcro. It's like a plastic Velcro. on the bottom of the battery, it sits in here. This is actually Velcro down to the inside of the kayak as well. So the battery won't move around once it's in there. And I also put these Velcro straps that will go over the top of the battery to secure it a little bit more. I noticed a lot of people were were talking about the drive sliding back and forth on the, I guess, the Thor tube for this kayak. Since I never had one, I didn't know what people were talking about. But I saw people ordering these spacers from Navari, and they look good, but for me they're kind of pricey. So I knew there was a cheaper option, and I got the link to the parts, and then I put them on this kayak as well. So as you can see, they're just metal clamps. They slide over the end of the Thor tube, put them in place, and then they have an Allen screw head that just tightens down so they don't move once they're on there. Put one on each side, and now the drive doesn't slide back and forth anymore, but it's still freed up to open and close or drop down. I'll put a link to the description in those if you're interested. I think they're like $5 for those two. The Navari handles, they work great. No issues with the handles themselves at all. What I had an issue with was how I mounted those rod holders. I quickly figured out they got in the way for a lot of things. Let me show you guys what I'm talking about. So they sit here, obviously just like that. But what I didn't pay attention to was how they're going to sit over that handle right there to drop the rudder, which isn't a huge deal because you only drop that once, and then you just push these back. So that wasn't a big issue. The bigger issue was that they sit right over the steering handle, basically. So it's kind of a pain in the butt. Now this slides out of the way, and it's fine. You can use it with it slid out of the way, but it's kind of a hassle. So if you're thinking about getting this rod system for your pedal kayak, think about those things first. I didn't think about it, and I'd still use them. I wouldn't not use them because of that, because it's not that big of an issue, but it gets kind of annoying sometimes. So just keep that in mind if you're gonna get those. So the other issue is when they're on there, there's not a lot of room in the front to get in the kayak anymore. So as you can see, these rod butts kind of stick out, and it doesn't give you a lot of room to hop in the kayak, especially once you have, like I have this little light, and then my remote switch for the yak power system, and on this side I'll have my fish finder, which is gonna sit right here. So it's kind of gonna be in the way too. It was in the way, I should say. So it made it kind of difficult to get in the kayak. I actually broke the remote holder, I guess, when I got in. I kicked it with my foot. It's just something you got to look out for if you use those rod holders. So my actual review of this is, I liked it. It's really stable. It's just as stable as my autopilot. The one thing I have to get used to on it is obviously this pedal drive takes up room in the front cockpit area, whereas over here you have all that space, and this trolling motor is way out of the way. It's not even an issue. So I have all that room to stand. I have all that room to flip fish in the kayak. So with this thing, this is in the way, and your seat has to be closer because you have to obviously pedal the kayak, so your feet have to be able to touch the pedals. So you lose a lot of that space because of that reason. One thing that I still do like better is that when this sits down in the kayak, it's almost flush with the rest of the kayak, whereas like the Native brand, where the drive sits at, there's like a little rise where the drive goes to, and you can't really do anything with your feet because it kind of blocks your feet, and you don't have, you just feel more restricted in that area. On this one, while this does sit up a little bit higher right here, you still feel like you have more room to walk around and just be free in this kayak if you stand up a lot. Having freedom of movement, or even just the feeling like you can move better is a big advantage, at least for me. The drive was a little bit hard to pedal. I did about 3.5 to 4 miles an hour on average the entire time, so it moves decently fast. I expect the gearing will loosen up and break in after a while too, so plus and then I'll just get used to it. Other than that, I really like the kayak. You know, it was just as stable as the autopilot. Other than a couple setbacks that, you know, were more because of personal preference or issues like I had, like with my back, there was no real big complaints. I could stand up in it in the waves and the wind and the chop and not feel like I was going to fall out or get rocked out. It's super stable. I don't think I felt like I was going to flip it one time out there. Once I put the fish finder, or the wiring system that Old Town has for the autopilots in this kayak, I'm not going to buy another transducer because they're kind of expensive, and I'm not going to use both kayaks all the time, so I'm just going to swap transducers between these two kayaks. And with all that system in place, and I just bought another power wire for the fish finder, so I leave that in there. But the transducer swaps over from each kayak in about 5 minutes, and they both use the same mounting plate under the kayak. So you just do undo like 5 screws, 8 screws, and then you're done. Super simple. Everything's storing, all the wiring stores up front, so I don't have to like run a long cable anywhere to the back or anything. But yeah, keep one of these in mind if you're in the market. Definitely one of the most stable kayaks I've had by far. So if you're worried about that, this is definitely one to look at. I think that's gonna wrap up my review, hopefully, and how I rigged this thing up. If you have any questions, post them in the comments. I'm gonna leave a link to everything that I've used to rig this up in the description, so look out for that. I appreciate y'all watching these videos, liking them, subscribing to them. Hopefully this helps you out if you're trying to think of ways to rig your kayak or you're in the market for a different one. Thanks again, guys. I will catch you guys out in the water next time, and thanks for watching, thanks for liking, thanks for subscribing.